Yes, founder of Canada's Cyber Safety Foundation and the author of the Canadian Cyberfraud Handbook. Claudiu, always good to see you. Appreciate your time.
Glad to be back on the show.
I know this is what you do for a living. You study this kind of stuff here. What do you make of what we're seeing in British Columbia?
It's unfortunately is happening across the country. People are concerned about finances. People are concerned about the rise of technology use in their lives, and people are no longer surprised to receive notifications by email or text asking them for money or warning them that they're past due on some bill. And that introduces a level of stress that most people have difficulty handling, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's also quite remarkable, Claudio. And we're just looking about some of these scams here. These long cons employ social manipulation, financial grooming tactics to exploit the public's interest in and incomplete understanding of crypto assets, luring victims into handing over more and more money. That coming from the RCMP in British Columbia. Just as well, the sort of sophisticated nature of some of this stuff, where it can look and sound very legitimate, even if it isn't.
Very much so. Historically, we've had three different types of scams and types of fraud. One is an appeal to emotion, and we can think of romance scams, or what they're calling now pig butchering scams, which, of course, have to deal with people being seduced or charmed into a so-called relationship. The other is an appeal to greed, and we're seeing a lot of that happening with these crypto scams and people being promised unbelievable returns. And of course, we've seen this happening all the way back to antiquity, or 30 years, as we used to see these boiler rooms. And of course, we've also seen it immortalized in Hollywood. And also, there's the appeal to authority. And unfortunately, that's happening a lot these days. Even I get personal reports that say, look, I received this text message and it looks identical to a government website. It looks identical to a police email. It looks so legit that I was fooled, and I just sent them $40, $80, $200 just to make it okay, because I don't need to have a police officer at my door. So that all those three types of scams have one thing in common: urgency. So that's the first thing to watch out for.
Yeah, often too good to be true. We know this, and you've and I've talked about this for many, over the years many times, that when something seems to be too good to be true, it usually is. This has happened to me many times. My bank, what's not my bank but looks like it. My cell phone provider, not my cell phone provider but looks like it. Home gas bills, you name it. There's all sorts of very sophisticated emails that come in, phone calls from people saying they're from my bank and there's a security issue, and it's the number of the bank on my cell phone. So they're using these softwares where they steal the numbers from banks so it looks like legit. I mean, it's really quite staggering when you think about it. Only 5% of people, Claudio, actually report this kind of stuff. Why?
The combinations are unlimited. And when people fall for these types of things, either they feel that, you know what, I've lost less than a certain amount and I can just learn from it and move on, or they are so embarrassed by it and feel so humiliated that they don't bother reporting. Either way, they feel that there's no recourse, and even if they did report it, nothing would happen. And they, more often than not, as I hear, feel like they would just turn into yet another number and become a statistic.
Yeah, so people are worried about that, and what would you say in terms of advice? You get a text, or, it's a fake government website, or again, something that looks really legitimate. I know sometimes there can be typos and spelling mistakes, so that people can be a little proactive and, something kind of smells a little fishy. But what's the number one piece of advice you would give?
Number one thing is always watch for an urgent appeal, whether it's an appeal to emotion or an appeal to authority or an appeal to greed, whatever it might be. If it's urgent and it looks intimidating or even remotely scary and concerning, call someone else, take a step back, introduce a delay in your thinking process. And if you're lucky enough to have detected something that is very much likely to be a scam, use your platform, use your social media to share the warning with others, because we all have a network, whether we are talking to 1 million people or to 12 people. That's all we can do to spread awareness, and I think it helps.
Claudiu, always good to see you, and I appreciate you taking some time today as we follow this one out of British Columbia.
My pleasure.
Claudiu Popa joining us.